In the ancient world, a city rose to prominence, its name becoming synonymous with power and grandeur. Babylon, the city of wonders, was a place where humanity's ingenuity and arrogance would converge. Let us journey back in time to the origins of this fabled city, as recorded in the book of Genesis. The story begins with the whole earth having one language and a common speech. As people migrated from the east, they came to a valley in the land of Shinar, where they settled. The valley, with its fertile plains and abundant resources, was an ideal place for the people to build a city. And so, they said to one another, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth." The people were unified in their pursuit, and they worked together to build the city and the tower. As we read in Genesis 11 verses 1 to 9, the people used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. Saint Cyril of Alexandria observes that the people's attempt to build a tower that reaches to the heavens was a manifestation of their pride and arrogance. They sought to make a name for themselves, to be like God, and to defy His will. But God, in His wisdom, saw the potential for evil in their unity and intervened to prevent them from achieving their goal. By confusing their language, God scattered the people and halted the construction of the city. Centuries later, the city of Babylon would rise to become a major power, with kings who would leave their mark on history. One such king was Nebuchadnezzar, who ruled Babylon with wisdom and justice. However, his son, Belshazzar, would prove to be a different story. As we read in Daniel 5, Belshazzar gave a great banquet for 1,000 of his nobles, and during the feast, he ordered the gold and silver cups that had been taken from the temple in Jerusalem to be brought out. The king and his nobles, along with their wives and concubines, drank from the cups, praising their idols made of gold and silver, copper, iron, wood, and stone. But as they were drinking and reveling, a hand appeared and wrote on the wall of the palace. The king was terrified, and his face turned pale. He called for the enchanters, astrologers, and diviners to come and interpret the writing, but none of them could. Then, the queen reminded the king of Daniel, who had been able to interpret dreams and solve difficult problems. Daniel was brought before the king, and he interpreted the writing on the wall. The writing said, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin, which meant that the king's days were numbered, he had been weighed and found wanting, and his kingdom would be divided. Saint Ephrem the Syrian notes that the city of Babylon, with its grandeur and beauty, was also a place of exile for the people of God. The Israelites, who had been taken captive by the Babylonians, would have to navigate the complexities of life in a foreign land, while remaining faithful to their God. The story of Daniel and the writing on the wall serves as a reminder that even in the midst of exile and uncertainty, God is still sovereign and in control. In the book of Daniel, we also read about the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, who had a dream that none of his wise men could interpret. The dream was about a great tree that was cut down, and the king was worried about its meaning. Daniel, who had been given the gift of interpreting dreams, was brought before the king and interpreted the dream. The dream was a warning to the king, telling him that he would be driven mad and live like an animal for 7 years. The king, however, did not heed the warning, and the prophecy was fulfilled. Nebuchadnezzar was indeed driven mad and lived like an animal for 7 years, until he acknowledged the sovereignty of God. The story of Babylon is a complex and multifaceted one, full of lessons and warnings. As we reflect on the history of this fabled city, we are reminded of the dangers of pride and arrogance, and the importance of humility and faithfulness. We learn from the lessons of Babylon that God is still speaking to us today, guiding us and warning us of the dangers of pride and arrogance. May we learn from the lessons of this city and strive to build our lives on the foundation of trust in God's sovereignty and obedience to His will. As we navigate the complexities of our own world, may we remember the story of Babylon and the writing on the wall, and may we always seek to follow God's will and guidance in our lives. The city of Babylon, with its grandeur and beauty, was a place of wonder and awe, but it was also a place of exile and uncertainty. May we learn from the lessons of Babylon and strive to build our lives on the foundation of humility, faith, and obedience to God's will. In conclusion, the story of Babylon is a powerful reminder of the importance of faith and trust in God's sovereignty, and may we always seek to follow His will and guidance in our lives.